Are your kitchen and bathroom way overdue for a remodel? Well, I got the guy for you. Call John Sellers at First Response Contracting, 484-256-7136. Both residential and commercial services, and he's licensed and insured. Call him at 484-256-7136. First Response Contracting. Hello, here we are again. You're listening to Real Estate and You. I'm Brad Weisman, your host. And each week we come up with all kinds of cool stuff about real estate, of course. And this week I thought, why not jump into something that is very much needed right now, which is air conditioning. And who I have with me right now is Craig Weisman from Comfort Pro. He's not only one of the owners there, but he's also my brother. So I have him coming in here, and he's going to be talking to me right here in the studio. And we're going to talk about HVAC stuff. So how you doing?
All right. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, I brought you in here because there's so much that we get questions on in real estate when it comes to the HVAC business. Mm-hmm. And one of the things right now, because it's stinking hot out there, I mean, I think it's it's like probably real feel 90 or maybe out there right now?
I believe so.
Yeah. So what I want to know is people say you should have your HVAC system or your central air system checked every year. What are they doing in the air conditioning season for our systems to check them?
Well, we start off by taking some measurements of the split across the coil, which is telling us the performance, which is kind of like the miles per hour.
Okay,
or miles per gallon. It's telling us not necessarily the efficiency, but how well it's doing its job.
Okay.
We like to see anywhere from 16 to 20 degree differential between return and supply.
Okay.
The other thing we're going to check is safeties, which can be not so much safeties in air conditioning, but also we're going to be checking capacitors, which is the electrical part of it. Capacitors can make your motors wear out quicker.
Okay.
And in fact, I just was over at a friend of mine's, and he needed a capacitor and put it on and got it working for him.
And isn't that the thing that like kind of kick starts it or like starts up the system?
Kind of does two things. You have a start capacitor and you have a run capacitor. Start capacitor starts the compressor, and then run capacitor keeps it going.
Oh, okay.
Keeps the voltage in line.
Right.
So that's how the capacitors work. But they're important to check. Also on your blower inside, not just the outdoor unit. Blower inside has a capacitor. It's a pretty small one, but it does do a job that can make your motors last longer.
Interesting. So if those things are not checked, and I think I'd heard you say before with the capacitors and with those kind of things, if you're not maintaining them and they go, it could probably be, is it worse if they go while it's running? Or
yeah, I mean, a typical capacitor, change out is like $200. A motor change out is $800.
Okay.
I'd much rather do a capacitor change out than a motor.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, when you're outside checking the outdoor unit, you're checking for the refrigerant today too, right?
Yeah, we check refrigerant, but we're also checking the coil on the outdoor unit to see if it's dirty. There's a couple ways to check that. You check it with temperatures, or you can even just look at the pressure.
Okay.
But if we check something every year, you're going to catch the little stuff.
Right.
Instead of some people don't get it checked for 10 years, and then you have to spend $2,000. Then they're at the point where I'm also just replace it.
Gotcha. So it's like anything. It's like your car. I mean, if you run your car down the road for 10 years and never have it checked,
right,
there's a good likelihood that you can have an expensive bill later on.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10, when you see a car along the road with a tire off of it, that's because they didn't check the pressure.
Right, exactly.
I see that all the time. In fact, I just went away this weekend, and there was trailers and trucks and stuff whatnot on the side of the road with changing tires.
Yeah,
you got to check them.
Yeah, and it's funny how people don't do that. So when you're looking at the AC season, I know a lot of times you guys always say too that the main part about air conditioning is removing the moisture, not as much as dropping the temperature, or is it both, or how does that work?
Well, you have to remove the moisture before you can drop the temperature.
Okay.
Because the water that accumulates on the coil is actually insulating the coil.
Okay.
So therefore, it can't drop the sensible temperature; it can only drop the latent.
Now it sounds very technical. That's really beyond my brain.
Yeah,
so what you're saying is that, but the humidity's not good.
Latent, it means unseen. So latent heat is unseen heat that you can feel, but you can't see.
Got it.
So that's why I always say, well, the real feel is this. Well, that's latent heat. It's the actually a Latin term for unseen.
Right. And I know my thermostat that you guys actually sold me, tells me real feel.
Yes.
Which I've never seen that before on a thermostat.
Yeah, it includes the humidity.
Yeah, so it's taking that into account, into account. Amazing. So what can we do besides the maintenance every year? I guess basically it's the maintenance every year. And the other thing I want to talk about, when we get back to refrigerant, I know that there's some refrigerants that are pretty much out of, you can't get them. Or if you get them, they're expensive as could be.
Yeah, R22 is pretty much going to be done. You're not going to be able to get that, I think, after this year.
And when was that gas being used? Like, when was that popular?
Through my whole career.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
In 1985, when I started in the business, that's when we were replacing R12 systems with R22. And then roughly, I'm going to say 2000, early 2000s, we started to go to 410A.
Okay.
And now they're finding that 410A is no longer safe for the environment. So now we're going to be going to another refrigerant.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So the 410A is going to be 410A
history. Is going to be history. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So the R22. So when we talk about, everybody always says Freon. What is Freon in comparison to those things? Is it Freon?
Freon is a brand name by DuPont.
Ah, okay. Got it.
So like Kleenex.
Got it. Okay, so Freon is a refrigerant.
Scotch tape. So Freon is a refrigerant that was made by DuPont. That was just their name for it.
Okay, got it.
So when you get down south, they call it Freeze-On.
Freeze-On.
Yeah.
Freeze-On. Get your freeze-on. Unbelievable. So basically, we want to make sure that we want to get the efficiencies, which basically would be getting a new system, because you're going to get better, not better refrigerant, but more eco-friendly refrigerant. And cleaning the coils and things like that is going to increase your efficiencies.
Yeah. The other reason they changed the name, too, to Freon, it was easier to say. Because R22 is monodichloro-difluoromethane.
Yeah, that's not good. We don't. That's something. Yeah, could you imagine calling your HVAC contractor and saying that you needed that as opposed to Freon? That's pretty interesting. So let's go into the clean air stuff, or any kind of air filtering type things. I know that you see in the Targets and things like that, you'll see these, and I see them a lot of times in homes. These little space air purifiers. What is are they really doing anything?
Those are pretty much a gimmick in the sense that the size of them to do your house is just not large enough.
Okay, what if I have one in each room?
You could do one in each room. It would probably work, but you got to watch with some of that stuff. Some of it produces ozone.
Okay.
So ozone's not a good thing for your lungs.
It's not.
No.
Okay, it's not.
No.
So you're saying, but what you guys would do is what you would suggest is a whole system that basically would be installed on the main unit if you have central heat and air.
Yeah, it uses LED light.
Okay.
Rather than the other ones were electrolysis or electronic.
Yes.
This uses an LED light and then mixed with, I'm not exactly sure what it does, but it creates a substance similar to hydrogen peroxide.
Interesting.
Which is actually then airborne. And then, clings to the dirt and stuff and the contaminants in the air.
Interesting. So do you know, now obviously with COVID here, and I don't want to put you on the spot because I didn't prepare you for this, but do you think there's going to be something, or do you think there's something that's going to be out there that can maybe make our houses a little bit better or cleaner for any kind of a COVID type situation?
Yeah, there is actually some products out there that we actually do sell. The problem was when COVID started, they were selling to the hospitals.
Right.
So we couldn't get a hold of any of their units. We actually put a billboard up that said that we weren't going to sell them, and a week later we couldn't get any.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
talk about being put in the spot.
Yeah, it didn't work too good with that, but now we can get them. We can get the products.
Okay.
And in fact, I got one and put one in my house.
Is a HEPA filter used for that? Does that do anything?
No, HEPA filter is pretty much particulate.
Okay.
Something that is not necessarily seen.
Okay.
But it's not going to kill bacteria.
It's not going to kill
kill virus.
So we need something to actually take care of that.
Right.
Interesting.
And HEPA is a passive filter.
Okay.
So it catches some of it, but not all of it.
Very interesting.
It relies on passes through it.
Interesting. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that that's what it did. So now let's go, even though we don't need heat right now, let's talk a little bit about heating season and what is going on with the fuels and things that we have today. I know natural gas has gotten incredibly efficient or inexpensive. Is that still the way to go?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get it.
If you can get it, right.
Yeah, if you can get natural gas, that to me is the best.
Okay.
You know, or the cheapest, and also the most cost effective.
And what about propane?
Propane, I would say, would be second.
Okay.
But close second to propane would be geothermal.
Okay.
So if you can't get natural gas, I would probably go geothermal.
Geothermal, which is a higher cost going into it.
Much higher cost,
Yeah.
but you can get it. The grant has been extended.
Okay, so you can get grants for that.
Yeah, so you can get 30% back on the total cost of install.
You know, it's so funny. Somebody just asked me about that recently, if they still had grants.
Yeah, it's a tax credit.
Tax credit, okay. So you just file some paperwork and send it into the government, and you get a tax credit.
Yep.
So going back, here, this is a question I always get when somebody's buying a property, let's just say it's out in the rural areas, okay? They buy a property and the house has an older system and it's oil, okay? And they say to me, well, what would we do if we were to replace this? What's the best, not only just the best, the most efficient, you know, with staying within reason price-wise. Now, geothermal to me is always like even with the discounts or whatever, it might be a step in as far as expense. But what about, should they go to propane? Should they go to heat pump with propane backup? Should they go to, what would be the best thing to do in those situations?
I would say it got to depend on how much money you want to spend up front.
Gotcha.
You know, if you don't want to spend a lot of money up front, then you'd have to go with, I would say, just a propane furnace with a heat pump.
Okay.
So a heat pump that'd be called a dual fuel.
Okay.
Or you could do geothermal. Geothermal, I think, is probably the best thing to do.
Okay.
Just because of overall expensive. It also depends on how long you're going to stay there.
Right. To get your money back.
To get your money back. Because
your
you need at
investment.
least 20 years to get your money back with geothermal.
Wow. That's a long time.
Sometimes it can be sooner than that.
And now, is that with the 30% credit or is that without, you think? I mean,
that's without the 30%.
Okay,
credit.
that's
Once
without.
you add the 30% credit, it's a little bit quicker return.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. So what about, and I hear this all the time, heat pumps, just a straight up heat pump. People get all crazy. Oh my gosh, they're terrible. If you've gotten one of those in the past 10 to 15 years, it's a lot better than our grandparents' heat pump.
Oh my word, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, like tenfold.
Yeah,
well, I
that's
wouldn't say tenfold, but
yeah,
they've gone from your efficiency of 3 to 1, they're up to 4.6 to 1.
So it's changed.
So it's changed a lot, and you get a little bit better heat out of it. The temperatures actually haven't changed much. It's just you're getting a better efficiency.
Interesting. So the temperature, because that's the thing you always hear too with heat pumps. Oh, the air coming out in the winter, the air coming out of there is not hot enough. It's not like it's not hot. How can it's always blowing cold air?
Well, technically it is to your body. It is
right
because your body's at 98.6 or 98 roughly, and that's debatable because they're saying now that your body temperature is lower than 98. Really.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, whenever you're at or close to your body temperature or below your body temperature, you feel cold when the air moves across it because it's evaporating the moisture off your skin.
Gotcha.
So it's going to feel, wind chill pretty much.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to typically get, and that's all based on outside temperature.
Right.
Which is nice with the Geo. You don't have based on an outside temperature. You're based on ground temperature.
Ground temperature, which then it can take the heat out of that source,
Correct.
right?
There's more heat to take.
Yeah, exactly. Very cool. Well, you know what? I appreciate you coming in here today to answer some questions. These are things I hear all the time. And you are Craig Weisman. You're from Comfort Pro.
Yes.
And I guess the website's still the same, comfort-pro.com. Is that right?
That's it.
And I think I know the phone number, 610-926-4200.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yep.
So thanks a lot for coming in today. I appreciate it. And we'll be doing some more shows and in the near future.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That was Craig Weisman from Comfort Pro. Please listen again next week. I'll have some more people on here. Actually, I got Tony Daskas coming in from the Goodfellas Granite Company. So that's going to be a really fun. So you have to check it out. All right. Are your kitchen and bathroom remodels a little overdue? Well, now's your chance to call First Response Contracting. John Sellers will take care of you. 484-256-7136. They do residential and commercial, and they're licensed and insured. Give them a call at 484-256-7136.